Well, I'd like to welcome this morning my guest, Gareth Case. He is the CMO of a company called Redstor, and we'll be talking this morning about his use of a solution called Turtl. So, Gareth, first of all, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Nancy. My pleasure.
Well, let's get into it. First of all, tell us a little bit about Redstor so that we have an understanding of what your company does.
Sure. So Redstor is a UK headquartered data management business. So we specialize in cloud-based backup and recovery, as well as archiving and some search and insight tools to help organizations manage and protect the data within their organization. And that's data that sits either on premise within a server or a data center environment, or even data that sits within applications such as Office 365 or Google Workspace.
Okay. And are you selling to enterprise accounts or mid-market or kind of everyone?
So mid-market's probably our sweet spot, but we pivoted about 18 months ago and sell exclusively through channel partners now. So we've got around 400 channel partners globally. We've got access, or our customers have got access to our product through a number of marketplaces, including the Microsoft Azure marketplace and the Google marketplace as well. So we sell through channel partners to an array of customers in all sorts of different industries of all sorts of different sizes.
Very good. Okay, so it's important to note that you sell through the channel, and that tells me something, which is that you have basically 400 different companies that are representing you that you need to take into account so that maybe perhaps their own branding and things like that are also represented. But before we go down that path, I wanted to ask you if you could explain in your own words what it is that the Turtl solution is or does.
So for those that don't know anything about it, I think the easiest way to probably describe it is as an online content management platform. So interestingly, you probably don't know this, Nancy, but I was Turtl's first ever customer back in 2012. And I've taken Turtl with me now into 5 different organizations. So this is my 5th iteration of using Turtl. It's an incredible platform, and when we first rolled it out when I was at Exchanging back in 2012, it was essentially used as a replacement for PowerPoints and PDFs. So any customer facing material, whether that's a brochure or a white paper or a pitch deck that the sales team were using, we'd use Turtl as an alternative way of producing and presenting that content. Now, what it does on top of a standard PDF or PowerPoint document is it gives you some analytics on the back end. And back in 2012, that was a relatively immature product. As I said, we were the first customer, but we instantly saw some value in that when we sent a presentation or some material to a customer, we could close that loop on the analytics. You know, you typically get the analytics on your email, so you can see when someone's opened an email, but if they then download a PDF, you kind of lose that analytics loop. So this was giving us really in-depth analytics in terms of, you know, how long they were looking at the content, which pages they were looking at. You can embed things like videos and poll your audience with questions within the Turtl platform as well. And on the analytics side, you can see how long they're looking at those videos and what answers they're giving to questions. So we immediately saw this huge sort of, you know, uptick in an impact, positive impact from an analytics point of view to see how people were engaging with our content.
So interactivity, I think, is really key. You mentioned adding videos and forms and things like that. And that's something I suppose you can do to some extent in a PDF, but Turtl also sort of presents the information in a different format, right? It doesn't look like you're just looking at a 8x10 or in Europe, I guess the numbers are different, but it doesn't look like you're just looking at pieces of paper.
That's right. It's A4, by the way, in the UK, or
Thank
A3.
you.
It's similar to our paper formats. Why they're different in the world, I don't know. But that's absolutely right. So essentially what Turtl does, it will render the content depending on what device you're looking on. So in the same way that, you know, responsive websites came around, you know, 5-6 years ago, and all of a sudden, you know, it stops the pinching and the zooming in and out on a tiny screen. In the same way that we still do with PDFs today, right? I've just had a PDF through a minute ago, and I'm sort of, you know, pinching and zooming on my screen to read it and scaling up and down across the page, and it gets really hard to navigate when you've got a document with many pages. Whereas Turtl will present the information in, you know, the right size font, and it will fit the screen, and the navigation within it is really easy. So, you know, it really enhances that kind of reading experience. And the other really clever thing they did is they built the product to present the information at kind of two levels, and tying into the Turtl name, they have the surf layer and the immerse layer. And this comes from the fact that turtles dive down for many minutes at a time, I think up to 9 minutes to go and feed. And it's the same thing they've done with the product. So you get a very visual, engaging section of content at the top layer. And when you get to a chapter within that piece of content that you want to find more information about, you click to find out more, and the immerse layer then appears with all the words and the polls and the videos and all the content and that kind of stuff. So it enables people to skip through in the same way that you would with a weekend newspaper. You flick through and get to the section that you want. It might be sport or lifestyle, and then when you stop and then you take the time to immerse and take that content in, Turtl enables you to do that in a digital format.
So that sounds like a much better user experience, because I'm not forced to just flip through the entire document, and I can just kind of, as you say, surf, get to a point where, oh, that looks very interesting. I want to learn more details on that. And then, by the way, all of that, the pages that they skipped over or didn't bother going down in levels, all that data is collected. So you can, I imagine, start to know over time, hey, this particular piece of content or part of the content is not being looked at, or perhaps we need to, tweak that piece.
Exactly. And you can test to the nth degree with this tool. So you can start playing around with different images at the top layer and see if that has an impact on how many people immerse and read the content. We've got many videos within our kind of kit bag at Redstor, and the videos that are 2 minutes long, we can very quickly see within Turtl that the average viewing time is 1 minute and 30 seconds. So we know that they're not engaging past a certain point. So it really helps inform marketing teams about the quality of their content and how it's performing with their audiences.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the channel. How is it that you're equipping 400 different channel partners with content that they will want to use? Because, I'll have you maybe explain what some difficulties are when you're working through the channel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge challenge, and I've worked in channel organizations pretty much my whole career. And if you think about the old traditional ways of doing it, and you think about how the big vendors tend to do it today, the ones that haven't adopted these types of technologies, they'll come up with a kind of campaign in a box methodology, right? Where there's a standard set of campaign templates they fire out to their channel partners. And the trouble with that is the channel partners then put their logo on the top and co-brand it and send it out to their prospects. Now, that's fine until the prospect gets 10 campaigns exactly the same from the same vendor, but with 10 different channel partners' logos on the top. It's all of a sudden it starts to lose that kind of impact, if you like. So we've steered very much away from kind of campaign in a box. We've got some pre-canned campaigns for our channel partners, but we've really utilized Turtl in the channel in two ways. First thing we did when we brought it on at Redstor was to create what we call Redbook, which is our kind of sales Bible, if you like. It's got all the collateral and assets that you'd need, which are all in Turtl, by the way, but we've packaged them up into one Turtl document for our sales team. So when you start at Redstor as a salesperson, you get access to the Redbook, and you can literally read through and educate yourself, or you can get taken through it by another salesperson or someone in the marketing team to basically run through how you'd present Redstor to the outside world, what assets are available to help you educate your customers and your prospects and all that kind of stuff. When they started using it, they loved it because everything was in one place. And me, from a marketing point of view, without telling them, of course, is we could see how long the salespeople were engaging with this content. Like, for the first time, we've built and spent money creating tools and can actually see if the sales team are using it or not. So, after month one, I published a leaderboard in the whole company and said, right, these are the people that have used it for this amount of time. These are the people that haven't logged in yet. And then it's like, oh, panic, I need to get on board. So it kind of got everyone to consistently use the same materials. Then from a channel point of view, again, traditionally, if you were to co-brand material for a channel partner and you've got 400 partners, that's a ton of graphic design time, right? And a ton of effort from a marketing team to produce those materials. So now we can very quickly within Turtl personalize the Turtl content, because it's all online, for a channel partner. So we can use their personalization functionality to put the partner logo on the front of collateral, for example, and fire out these packs so that they've got a full suite of Redstor collateral with their logos on in a fraction of the time that it would traditionally take using Illustrator and InDesign and those sorts of tools that we used to.
And Is that because, is there like a placeholder as to where the logo goes throughout the documents? How does it work where it does it so quickly?
Yeah, so you can put placeholders in for images, and that image could be a logo, and you can also put placeholders in for words as well. So, we could personalize it so that when you open a document, it says "Hi Nancy" on the front cover. How cool is that when you start getting real personalized campaigns delivered to you? I've actually got an example which I could show you on this webinar if you want me to fire it up as well.
I would, yeah, that would be fantastic.
So this was actually an ABM campaign we ran to try and attract Microsoft partners. So those selling Microsoft 365 solutions can quite easily sell Redstor as a backup solution for Microsoft 365. So this was a bit of an awareness campaign, if you like, but you can see there's some personalization up here in the right hand side. So this is essentially a placeholder. We load all the images into a folder and it pulls them through based on the company name. So this one is for a company called Zen0. This is a piece of personalization just on the text, which I mentioned a minute ago. So we've got Zen0 plus Redstor. And actually, we went a step further on this. So this is the Turtl platform that we're seeing here. I'll just go full screen to make it a little bit easier. So in the top left-hand corner here, you've got like a contents area where you can flip through the different content that sits within there. You can go full screen, or you can share this across your social channels within one click. And the kind of surf piece I was telling you about earlier is this top layer here. So you can click through here where you've got some imagery. And when you find a piece of information that you like, and again, you'll see there's personalization here. So this was addressed to a guy called Darren, who I think was the COO or the CTO within that business. So it's very clearly addressed to Darren within a document. And when Darren's interested in reading more about this section, he can click this read on button, and then he gets the deeper level of detail where he can go and read more detail. And there can be tons of pages down here. There could be videos. We've got just some simple messaging that we know would appeal to someone in his position in a company like his. And there's a Calendly link down here, so they can click this button and book a meeting with our sales team. But we went one step further with this campaign, and I think this is relatively unique in our market, certainly. Delivering a campaign in this package with this level of personalization, we also filmed around 300 individual videos for each of the recipients of the campaign. So I can play the video if you'd like me to as well, so you can just very quickly see it.
Let's do it.
Hi Darren, it's Hazel from Redstor here. I wanted to reach out to you, and I thought a video would be more interesting than your average email. I know many Microsoft partners are busy dealing with the recent increase in Microsoft 365 adoption, and it got me thinking that this probably applies to Zen0. I checked on LinkedIn and I noticed that you're the technical director, and figured that looking for the best way to manage and protect data across all your customers might be something you handle.
So I won't play all the video, but you get the idea. So there's a level of personalization from a video point of view, from a visual point of view, and from an audio perspective. And this campaign being delivered in the Turtl format with the video, with the personalization down to that individual, we saw some tremendous results. We've signed the two biggest Microsoft 365 partners in South Africa as new partners for us as a direct result of this campaign. And we've got a ton of other prospects that we're following up as well. So, relatively cheap to put together. We all know how effective ABM is. We picked 300 people across 150 different partners that we wanted to go after, and the results from those sorts of campaigns, in my experience, are far greater than firing out a couple 100,000 emails a week.
Wow, that is very powerful. I mean, it's one thing for a salesperson to send out an email and say, I noticed on LinkedIn that you're the XYZ at ABC company. But when you receive an email like that, you're thinking, oh, good for you. You went on LinkedIn. Wow. It doesn't say a lot, but now you're recording a video and it says, not only did you understand what I do, but you gave some thought to it, and you actually care. You've gone the extra mile. You're recording a video for me. I mean, it's very powerful. And in today's world, what sellers need almost more than anything is a way to differentiate themselves.
Exactly right. And what's interesting, we put the thumbnail of that little Turtl story in the body of the email instead of just some words. And of course, as the recipient, you pick it up and you go, oh, it says Darren at Zen0. It's like, oh, she's got it on a board. I'm going to click this, right? And the click-through rates were 4 or 5 times higher than we've seen on any other campaign, because people want to see what that person's going to say when they've got their name held up on a board. So it's just a really interesting tactic to drive engagement. And Turtl has been a big enabler for us to do those sorts of things.
Well, getting back to the channel. So if I'm a channel partner and I want to reach out to, a dozen different accounts of mine and about Redstor, what do I do? Where do I go to get that material that I want to send and personalize?
So we produce what we call our channel Redbook. So we have our internal one, which is what I mentioned earlier for our sales team. We then produced a channel Redbook, which is effectively a customer-facing version for our channel partners to use. So we took all the legwork out and made it really, really easy for them. And then what we do, every time we engage with a partner or we bring a new partner on board, we'll run it through Turtl's personalization so they get their own pack. And within like an hour of a partner engagement, they get sent this link with all these different documents, all the different brochures, the PowerPoints, the stories, the white papers, everything in there with their logo on, all co-branded. And we can turn that around in like an hour and a half for each partner, which again, in the past, we're talking probably 50, 60 assets that sit within this Redbook. In the past, that's 3 or 4 days time for a graphic designer to go and do those customizations and, all the legwork that's involved in that. So, it's not just the fact that they've got that co-branded material, it's actually the impact that the turnaround time has. It's like, whoa, these guys have done all this for us and we've only just signed up. That's incredible. We don't get that support from the big vendors out there. And it's that kind of thing that really drives the relationship forward.
Mm-hmm. And just like the internal Redbook, you get to see which channel partners are actually making use of it. So it gives you some leading indicators as to which channel partners maybe you need to reach out to provide more education to sort of get them more on board.
Exactly right. And again, in the old way of doing it, we'd send these things over email and we have no idea whether people were using it or not. So, as a CMO, how can I justify the time of a graphic designer or, a channel marketing manager spending time with partners when we don't know what's happening? Not only can we see if they're engaging with this, we can see which bits they're engaging with, and more importantly, which bits their customers are engaging with as well, because we get the aggregated statistics across that channel partners set of collateral, so we can see if they're sending it out and what kind of impact that's having within their prospect base. Incredibly powerful.
Yeah, you start to get a feel for the return on your content investment as well. And I would imagine it probably helps you justify your budget, because you can show that you have some sort of metrics that you can show.
Absolutely. I mean, the very first time I took Turtl on, which I said was back in 2012, the justification for bringing it in was purely a reduction in graphic design cost. I had 2 full-time designers in my team and an external agency. I worked for a business that was 10,000 people, about £500 million, probably $700,000 worth of revenue, so £500 million worth of revenue. It's quite a large organisation, a tier 2 systems integrator, and we were spending tons of money on graphic design costs, and all the salespeople were producing their own materials. There was no consistency around the brand. It's like, we need to get this under control. And Turtl came along and it's like, great, marketing can own this. We can own what things look like and the message and the tone and everything else within those pieces of material. We can manage it all centrally and have a single repository for it. And guess what? Because it's point and click friendly, anybody can use it. You don't need graphic design, professionals to use the tool, because anyone in the team can use it. So I went from having 2 designers in a team of 38 to having 38 people that could all use this tool and produce materials for the sales team and for the end user customers. So it massively improved, our productivity, and it meant that we could use our designers on things that really mattered, right? Like external campaigns and the stuff that's going to start driving new leads and revenue, instead of just helping the sales guys get a nice presentation together. So that was huge cost justification there. And the consistency and brand thing is really important. We've all worked within sales teams. Some salespeople get it, and others will just do their own thing, right? In PowerPoints, and we've seen it. They stretch the logos, they change the colors. They type their own narrative, and you see it as a marketing person and think, oh my God, all that work we put into trying to get some consistency in this, and the money we've spent on a rebrand or a messaging workshop and trying to get some consistency across the business, and you're out doing your own thing. With Turtl, we get as much or as little control over that as we want. We can lock the visuals down, even down to an image library that they can only use specific images, right down to locking the text down so that they can't change it, or giving them the freedom to go and change it themselves. So, it really works in all those sorts of different environments.
Brilliant. Well, let me ask you about the nuts and bolts. Okay, so let's say that someone is listening today and they think, gosh, this looks really compelling. and we need something like this. What does it look like to bring Turtl in and to get it going? And what are your recommendations in terms of that whole process?
There's an investment in time, right? And there is with any piece of MarTech. It's by no stretch as labor intensive as other pieces of MarTech. I've gone through the process of bringing Eloqua and Marketo and HubSpot into organizations, as well as a host of other tools. And it's definitely one of the easiest. I think, there's an element of upfront time that you need to spend, and that's working with the team at Turtl to understand what it's going to look like. How can you get your brand accurately reflected, the colors, the imagery, the templates, if you like. That piece needs some time investment, and it's not huge on the client side, it's more on Turtl side. So there's a 2 or 3 week period where you're going backwards and forwards and agreeing those sorts of things. Then you've got the job of getting your existing material into that platform, if you choose to do that, or you just go down the road where anything new goes into Turtl and not into PDF or PowerPoint. When we were exchanging back in 2012, 2013, we moved 400 pieces of externally facing material into the Turtl platform in 2 weeks with 2 people working on it. So, and again, if you think about having 200 PDFs that someone said, can you strip the content and the images out of there and put it back into a different template, it would take so much longer than that, so much longer. And again, there's no skill set required really. So we had a marketing intern helping us with that stuff, and it's literally drag the copy out of a PDF, paste it into the editor in Turtl, and Turtl worries about all the formatting for you. So there's hardly any tweaks that you actually need to do to get it looking really smart. So the ongoing investment of time, not only does it reduce what you'd normally be spending on the production of content, when it comes down to things like the channel example I gave you earlier, or the personalization example, that Zen Zero thing, if we did that in a PDF, someone would have to sit there and drag 150 different logos in and 300 different names in and save them all individually, and then make, with this, upload all the images into a folder, point the folder at it, and it does the rest. So I think long term, people that take this platform on will see a massive increase in productivity and reduction of time spent on this stuff. But there is, as always, an element of some upfront work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I think one really interesting thing that I've seen using Turtl over the last 7 or 8 years is it really does help bring sales and marketing teams together. And there's that age-old sales versus marketing, and sales and marketing need to work together. And there's always a bit of resistance from one of the teams, whether it's sales or marketing, or in some instances both. This is a really nice tool to bring those 2 teams together. So anyone that's really struggling with that, salespeople are the first to moan. You gave us 100 leads and 99 of them are rubbish, and or I don't care what the open and click-through rate is in emails. They might have opened it, but they don't remember when I followed up, and you get all this pushback from sales team. But imagine putting a proposal, and we've done this by the way, but putting a proposal into the Turtl format and giving that to the salesperson to send out, and then the salesperson can log in and look at the analytics. So he knows when his customers opened a proposal. He or she knows that they've spent 2 minutes on the executive summary, 15 minutes on the pricing page, and they haven't looked at anything in between. Or that they've looked at the video that introduces the proposal, or that they haven't, or that they asked them 5 questions and the answers were yes to 3 of them and 2 to no of them. Without that level of analysis or analytics, they've got no idea what's happening to their proposals when they send them out the door. And we're working on something at the moment, with Turtl, which will effectively give the sales guys a web page with some radio boxes and some check boxes, and they click down a number of options, hit the button, and it will generate a Turtl proposal. All they need to do is input the price and the customer name, and the platform will do the rest for them. So again, from the consistency point of view, tender responses and that kind of stuff, instead of searching around the organization for the stock response to question 15.3, well, we've got it all built in this huge Turtl document. The sales guys click a few buttons, it shrinks it down and delivers that straight to their inbox, so they can send it on to their customer. And then they can see if they've opened it and how long they've looked at it for. So, again, the number of applications for this platform are almost infinite. It's down to the imagination of the people using it.
I can only imagine how the sellers feel once they are given tools that actually help them. And you're saving them so much time and allowing them to actually create a thing of beauty, a document that's going to make a better impression on their prospect, which will probably also increase the engagement rate or the response rate or even maybe the win rate because of that. Yeah.
That's right. And you know, the key is to get that almost enormous piece of content done up front, right? So behind the scenes, you've got a huge library, and what this enables you to do is to pick the pieces out of that library you want and build one document, which you then send to your client. What I'm thinking about and starting to work on now is how we can automate that process based on our HubSpot instance. So imagine you've got an MQL who's been in MQL for 90 days, but hasn't done anything else, hasn't opened any more emails, hasn't picked the phone up, hasn't booked a demo. We can see that it's been an MQL for a certain period of time. We can see that customer, for argument's sake, is in construction, and you know, a few other things about that customer. And based on that criteria, we can get Turtl to talk to HubSpot to generate a story that says that we understand you inquired 83 days ago. We haven't booked a meeting yet. Here's 3 reasons why you should, with the chapters, you know, put into the story, and a link at the back with a form in which comes back into our HubSpot to tell us when that person's, you know, filled the form in or inquired further. What that does is it completely automates the whole, you know, it's not just firing an email off like we've all been doing in HubSpot for years. This is a highly personalized, hyper-personalized piece of content based on the interactions they've had and based on the products that they've expressed an interest in the past, without any human interaction whatsoever. And, you know, that's when we know we've nailed it, because the marketing team almost can sit back now and stop worrying about lead generation for the first time in God knows how many years, right? Mm-hmm. So that's something that we're working on at the moment, and you know, that's got the potential to completely change the game. And that's for a small business. Imagine running that in an IBM or a Cisco or a company of that kind of size, and how, you know, the cost efficiencies that would drive and the improvements that would drive from a demand and lead generation point of view.
Wow, so much here to unpack. I mean, it's just really fascinating and interesting to hear all of the different use cases and how you've been successful with the solution, Turtl. Again, we've been talking with Gareth Case. He is the CMO of Redstor. Gareth, I want to say thank you so much for joining today and sharing your experiences.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure.